Hello YouTube, welcome to my channel. This channel is about e-scooters, how-tos and reviews, some techie stuff. Nothing real in depth, but we're eventually going to be popping the hood on the scooter. That'll be coming in another video, and we'll also be reviewing some other scooters that I personally have or personally have used. You can also find me on Facebook in the link below, and this video is going to be what to expect when you get it out of the box, some of the pros and the cons, and also I have about 150 miles plus on the scooter so far, so I've been able to break it in pretty good. So let's get right into it. Also we're going to be going how to program your controller if you don't know already how to do that. First thing, when I got it out of the box, the controller was broken. I had to email them a few times. They finally sent me a new controller, and for my troubles, they sent me this handlebar bag, which is pretty cool, but it was a pain in the butt because everything comes from China, so it's like a 5 to 7 day lead time, typically. Just like other people from Nanrobot reviews have said, I had to tighten up a couple of bolts. It does come with this tool, little Allen key set with some other tools in there. That's pretty handy, but some of these bolts, when you're cranking on them, you're going to need another Allen key set because there's another side that you have to hold while you're cranking on those. So far, the scooter's been pretty good. I don't care what anybody has said so far. I cannot get this scooter to go over 32 or 33 miles an hour on a flat surface straight away. I am 6'2", about 200 pounds, but I've had several buddies ride this, and they're the same way. So if you think this thing's going to go 40 miles an hour, at least for me, and this scooter they sent me, it's not going to do it. As far as climbing hills, wow, it's pretty good. It doesn't hesitate at all with the two 1,000 watt motors, giving a total of 2,000 watts. It does really good on hills. So if you're a bigger guy, this is a scooter or something similar that you would need, because I've tested a 250 watt, 350 watt, 500 watt, and then I've tested these, 1,000 by itself and then 2,000 together. And I thought the 500 watt would get me up hills. No, doesn't even come close. I still get bogs down to 6 or 7 miles an hour on my friend's Joyer scooter. Also, you're going to want to make sure you tighten up some of the brake stuff. And then there's also been a post about these brake lines. I should have cut this back a little bit shorter, but I didn't have one of those little crimpy things that go on the end. That's something that you're going to want to do because this had wrapped up in there and pulled off the end. Of course, it's fraying now, so I just need to go to a local bike shop and pick me up a piece and repair that. Right here is your back shock adjustment. I adjusted it for a little bit softer. Not a huge difference, but you can tell just a little bit. The front shocks, they're okay. They're just spring shocks. They're kind of noisy and they bottom out a little bit, but I guess it's better than nothing. The brakes work pretty good. I have it adjusted to brake level 1 because 0 is no power brake, 1 is somewhat power brake, and 2 is full power brake. And the full power brake, when you're going really fast, will almost throw you off the scooter. So it takes a little bit of getting used to. Quality wise, the scooter's, pretty tough. It's all aluminum. I've taken this off, which we will do in another video and show you the wires and the wiring diagram. The motors, like I said, are 1,000 watts, 23 amps on a 25 amp controller, and they're 52 volts. Pretty decent. As far as power goes. The space on the handlebars is very limited because, of course, I added a phone charger, which I have a huge phone, and this is the only phone holder, I might say, that I could find to fit my phone. And then it has this little locking piece right here. It's when you pull this up, then it locks into place. Works really well, but if you don't lock that piece, you're gonna break your phone. I learned that the hard way. Of course, I added the light because the light that comes with the scooter is not gonna do it. I don't care what anybody says. I like to ride my scooter at night when there's less traffic and there's some blacktop trails that I go through, and you will literally outrun the light. So you'll be going faster than the light can illuminate your pathway. And if you hit a big pothole or something like that, could be pretty rough. Trust me, I hit a pothole and went flying over the front of the handlebars. Didn't get hurt, but this is not going to do it. So I had to add this. This is 1800 lumens. I recommend you getting a minimum of a 1500 lumen headlight. This one's 1800 lumens. At full power, this will last for 6 hours, so I don't have to charge it up that much. Has a little charging port back here. It's waterproof. Once I get an Amazon affiliate link, I'll link that below so you guys can check it out. But back to the real estate on the handlebars. So, got all this crap on here. I rearranged this stuff where you can play around with it, but I rearranged it the way I like it. It does not let me fold the handlebars down, which I don't find a need to do that anyways. When I put it in the back of my car, or should I say truck, I don't fold it down. Another thing is these people had a problem with these handlebars being loose, and I will show you here that they are loose. I talked to Nanrobot about it, and they are sending me another T-handle because I can't tighten up the left-hand side no matter how hard I've tried. And you'll see here, this side right here in particular, you hear that? This side, solid. This side, and supposedly you take this, you want to loosen the screw, and then you tighten these two screws right here, but it hasn't worked. I try to do it all different ways, and I have a little bit of a mechanical background and not been able to do it. So they haven't sent me a tracking number for that, so I'm going to have to remind them that, hey, you promised to send me a new T-handle. The grips are okay. They will move around on you. I haven't decided if I'm going to keep these or just secure these in so they quit moving around on me, because eventually they'll end up moving like that, which I find it a little bit more comfortable, so you can rest your palm on this piece right here. So turning it on, of course, it has the key, your voltage. Right now it's at 55.2 volts. One short press, turn on the controller. The key, you cannot take off with this scooter unless you have the key. That's a lot of questions people ask. So if you turn it off, turns everything off, you take the key out, you cannot do anything with it. It doesn't work no matter what you try. So you gotta have the key. That's a nice little safety feature if you're just running in the store real quick. And of course, starting from left to right, we got the horn, which is pretty loud, but I must warn you, if you're on a trail and there's people walking or walking their dog or even on bicycles, you're gonna scare the crap out of them. So usually if I see somebody ahead, I'll give it a couple little quick blasts, and if they just still don't turn around, then I'll start laying on a little bit more, but give them a little bit of a heads up. Maybe later on down the road, I might put a bell on this, but again, I'm running out of room here. So this switch right here is for the light. It does have the LED lights in the backs. Unfortunately, they are not brake lights, which was disappointing, but it was my fault because I didn't read the description of the scooter before I bought it, because I might have went with something different if they didn't have brake lights, because I like to ride this scooter in traffic a lot. Only when I say in traffic, when I get in 35 or 25 mile an hour speed zones, because as you know, just because it says 25, people are usually going 35 or 40. Since this scooter doesn't go really any faster than 32, 33 miles an hour on a good day, I don't want to hold up traffic and become a safety hazard. So I pick and choose the times when I do ride it in traffic. So let's get it right into the controller. And I will show you how to get in this thing. Really, it's just a long press with the two buttons here. There's P0. P0. So a lot of people have complained. Now this will go back to the settings pretty fast, so we'll have to do it a couple of times. But people have complained about it doesn't match up with the speed, and I'm gonna show you exactly how to get past that and match it up to your GPS. It's real accurate. So go in here, long press, right here. That's your tire size. So you hit that button and you can change your tire size to whatever you want to change it to, up and down. But if you change it to 7-inch tires, even though the scooter has 10-inch tires, if you change it to 7-inch tires, it will match up with your GPS perfectly. All right, so that's P0. Hold it down again. You hit the mode button to go to P1. That's your cutoff voltage. When you're getting close to 45 volts, your scooter will cut off. I have not managed to drain this battery yet, and I'm trying not to because this scooter is 60 pounds. And if I break down, you're probably calling an Uber because you are not kicking this thing back home if you're a mile or two away or whatnot. I wouldn't want to do it. So try not to run the battery down. Of course, it's going to cut off on you too. It does have a timeout. If you just leave it alone, this will time out, I think in like 30 seconds. All right, so let's go to, that was P1, that's minimum voltage. P12 is for your hall sensors. You can also adjust your speed like that. I've played around with it. I had to adjust my hall sensors to 18. But when I talk about hall sensors, I'm talking about these little guys right here. There's 6 of them on each tire. So it gives a total of 12. And basically hall sensors, as this motor rotates, the hall sensor is a sensor. It has a microchip in there that picks up the magnetic field of the motor and senses the rotation, and that will correspond to your speedometer. So you can adjust your speed like that too, but I figured, hey, if it's got 12 hall sensors, well, then that's what I'm going to program into there. Didn't make any difference in the performance or anything. It just will get you close to GPS speed or against your GPS and give you accurate speedometer reading. All right, P3 is speed sensor function. Default in the manual, it says default is 43.5. I'm assuming that if it goes over 43.5 miles an hour, it will limit the speed. I've tried to adjust it, and you can't. That's a function you cannot adjust on that for P3. P4 is miles per hour. You can change that right there to kilometers. I'm in the US, so I changed it to miles per hour. P5 is kickstart or no kickstart. So kickstart, no kickstart. I have it on no kickstart because I don't want to have to try to kickstart this heavy thing. Some people will keep it on from accidentally hitting the throttle in the scooter, taking off on you. I haven't really had that issue, and I like to just get on the scooter and go. So that function I keep at 0 for no kickstart. P6 is cruise control. Definitely need that. Your hand will get tired from pressing this throttle. I mean, I guess eventually you'll get used to it, but on long straightaways and stuff, after I think 7 seconds or so, 5 or 7 seconds, having it at a certain speed, cruise control will automatically take over. It's a nice feature to have. And then as soon as you hit the throttle, it will take it off the speed, cruise control, or the brakes, either one of the brakes. This is the back brake on the left-hand side. This is the front brake on the right-hand side. And also a tidbit with that is I normally use the back brake, because the front brake, will tilt up the scooter if you're going pretty fast. So I usually take this, pull it about 80%, and then give this about 20% if I need a lot of stopping power. All right, let's see, that was wheels on cruise control, P6. P7 is power start or normal start. I played around with this setting, didn't see any difference between the two. I changed it to 0 or change it to 1. It didn't matter. It doesn't kick on both motors. I didn't feel any torque or any, extra oomph messing around with that setting. So I really don't know what that's for. So if somebody does know, they could put it down in the comments. P8 is power adjust, 0 to 100. Of course, 100 being at the top of the range, so the scooter will go as fast as it can. But if you're in an area where they limit the speed, you can play around and adjust that down, and it won't go over that. So 100 is 100%. You adjust it down to 75, to 75% of what the scooter can do, and that will, or maybe if you have a younger kid and you're letting them ride it, you can also adjust that. But we'll go into some other features too to show you how to play around with that. Brake strength. This is a very important one. I have it on 1, which is power assisted ABS. What it does is when you brake, it helps you keep in a straight line when you brake. 0 is no ABS. It kind of functions just like a regular mountain bike. So it has settings of 0, 1, and 2. If you have it on 2, you better be ready to hold on, because when you hit those brakes, they are super sensitive. And I tried them out for a while. I could not get used to it. I feel like setting the 0 setting is too loose for me. So I found the in-between is 1. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but it offers a little bit of a power assist, and it helps you brake in a shorter distance in a straighter line. I find that very comfortable for me, but you'll have to determine that on your own. And then it says in the manual P10, it says function to be determined, but this controller don't even have a P10 setting. All right, so that was your sub-menu settings. Of course, you got your power setting. Now, to adjust your speeds, it's got 1, 2, and 3. You'll go to mode. 1 really won't go over 10 miles an hour. 2 won't go over 20 miles an hour. And then 3, of course, is full speed. So there's your speed functions with that. 1, if I let a kid in the neighborhood ride it, I'll either put it on 1 or 2, whatever they feel comfortable with, of course, wearing a helmet. And then your modes here. There's time. So that every time you turn off the key and turn it back on, it resets that. Your time, it's how long you've been riding. Of course, you have an odometer that'll tell you how many miles you went or kilometers. This is how many miles I have on my scooter so far, 157. And this is the voltage right now. What a lot of people have said, these voltages don't correspond with each other, but I only find them ever, 0.2 of a voltage off most of the time. But when I'm looking at voltage, I'm going by this meter because it seems to be the most accurate. And then that's it on the controller. Now also too, it came with a charger, of course, but one thing I find interesting is that the charger it came with, the power cord to the charger seems to be a little bit thicker than the second one I ordered. I don't know if I haven't looked at the specs, but I did look at the specs on the back of their chargers, and it is a 58.8 volt 2 amp charger, which corresponds to this voltmeter, because when I charge it up, it charges to 58.8 volts, and that's it. And the same thing with the charger that came with it, same specs. 58.8 volts, 2 amps. Now it does cut the charging time in half with these 2 chargers down here. It does cut it in half. Before it was about 10 hours. Now it's about 5 hours. Now also too, if people that are not familiar with lithium ion batteries, I have a couple drones that I play around with. But when you initially put this plug in, it has this little divot right here, which lines up in here, and let's see if it'll do it, but you're going to hear a spark or a little pop, okay, when you line those up. You hear that? That's normal when you're plugging in something like that. And I forget the reason why I did it, but for my drones, when I used to plug in the batteries to recharge them, it used to do the same thing. And they do sell this little connector, I think a XT90 connector, that when you solder that on or replace it with the one they have on there, it stops that pop, because I think it grounds it or sends the power back through the battery. I'm not sure, but it eliminates that. But don't freak out. That is normal. But what you want to do is you want to plug this in first and then plug in your charger. And that way, safety-wise, you're good to go, just in case you throw this in wrong. But there's really no way to plug this in wrong, because it only goes in one way. But I don't know, I guess you could force it in there. So that's it on the D4. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments below. I'll try to answer them. And then next video, we will be taking off this cover plate. We're going to go through the battery, check that out. We're going to check out the wiring, and we're going to check out the speed controllers. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.